Thank you so much, Eniola, for coming on board to this interview for today. I'm sure you already know the purpose. So as usual, I would like you to introduce yourself in the way you are most comfortable with.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Iroye. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here and to participate in this great initiative, because I think it's really good what you're doing.
Thank you.
Creating personal stories that would inspire people. I think that's really great, and I really appreciate you for doing it. And I'm very honored and privileged to be one of those that you will be speaking with. Thank you. Yes, sir. So my name is Eniola Elizabeth Keshinro. I know some people watching this might know me as Elizabeth. Some people might know me as Eni. Some people know me as NK. So those are my names, whichever one you choose to call me. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative entrepreneur, and I'm also a fashion entrepreneur. So what that means is I'm a voiceover talent and a voiceover artist currently. And I try to build a business around that, around my skill and my talent. I'm also a fashion designer. I own a growing clothing brand or a fashion line called Krenitive Style. Okay. I've been doing that for about 7 months now. We launched it in December 2021. And before that, I was a teacher and an educationist. I wouldn't even like to say was, because I'm a trained teacher. So even if I'm not currently teaching, I would always be a teacher. I will always be an educationist. So yes, I did that for about 10 years. That's where I met Mr. Iroye. We're colleagues. He was my senior colleague at the school that we both worked at. So yes, I've recently just pivoted into entrepreneurship. So before I fully pivoted into self-employment and entrepreneurship, like I said, I'd worked in education for about 10 years. So I started my business in 2021, December of 2021. I started my fashion business December 2021, which is about 8 months ago, right? Before that time, I had registered my business in 2017, which was about 5 years ago. Not many people will know that or have that information. So in 2017, I started to get the nudging about what I wanted to do. But partly because of fear and because of responsibilities and because of certain things that you're doing, you might not be able to do what you feel that you need to do at the time. You will need to shelve certain things. I'll give you a little background. At the time, a lot was sort of dependent on me and my income. I wasn't the only one who was relying on my income, right? So I couldn't make certain decisions. I couldn't be rash with my decisions. So that's something that people also need to think about. If you do want to take the leap, from steady income into entrepreneurship, where you are the one who is creating your finances by yourself, you would have to think about, the people who are relying on you, right? So again, I registered my business in 2017, but I didn't really do much about it. I knew what I wanted to do. I just started sort of letting the idea germinate in my mind and to kind of flesh it out. So in 2018, during the summer holiday, I decided that I was going to take, active steps towards achieving my goals. And so I registered for voiceover training. It was at the Voiceover Academy. So I did 5 Saturdays of voiceover training, about a month of voiceover training in the summer of 2018. And whilst I was doing that, I went back to fashion school to go and learn properly how to design, pattern drafting, to just learn the basics of fashion, really. So I did that for about 6 to 7 weeks, which was my summer holiday from teaching. And then I went back to my job as a teacher in 2018. So in December of 2018, again, I got my first gig as a voiceover talent. Bear in mind that I didn't even think much. I didn't know much about voiceovers at all. going to the academy was my first introduction to voiceovers. But I knew that I'd always loved to speak. I knew that I'd always gotten comments about how, oh, your voice is so nice, oh, you speak so well. I used to get that a lot. So I said, okay, there might be more to, to this voice. I could use it. So voiceovers opened a new world for me. And the gig I got in 2018, December, sort of built my confidence even more to say, wow. So brands heard my demo and they wanted me to voice their adverts for them. So it really gave me a boost that, oh, wow. So there's really something here. So I started to get gigs, in voiceovers. My voiceover mentor will always tell me, Eniola, you're good. You're very good. He would always encourage me. And, I kept getting from one gig to the other until it looks like I was becoming an established voiceover talent. So there will be times where I might need to do a gig. Oh, it's on Saturday. I'm in Abeokuta. Thankfully, I had a car, so I was able to just quickly get into my car and go and record, and I'll come back to school. Because, Miss Iroye, how intense our work was as boarding staff. There was barely any free time for us, except for holidays. So I was just doing, I was doing voiceovers. I was doing my job. I still kept doing my job as a teacher. But fashion, I couldn't really do much because I just felt like I didn't have the resources close to me because of my location in Abeokuta. But in all honesty, I think that was I was just limiting myself because I could have started it even while I was at the Waterman. I could have gotten tailors in Abeokuta and its environs and just, started. But maybe a part of me too was scared, and I just kept telling myself, oh, no, I can't do it now. There's no time, So I started to build all of that. Also, in 2018, I took financial literacy very seriously because I realized that a time will come where I might not have, a salary. I need to be able to build for rainy days. So 2018 was a very crucial year for me, really. So I started taking my investments very seriously. I started to do some serious savings that I didn't even think was possible for me. And that's the thing, once you set your mind to do something, you would do it and things would definitely align. You might just be there sitting and thinking, oh, if I remove so and so from my salary, what would I be left with? How will I eat? How will I help out here and there? But one way or the other, I never lacked anything. I had more than enough. So that taught me a huge lesson that yes, you can save, yes, you can start to invest, you will still have enough to get by. So I was also building for 2021 when I was going to move from my job, but I didn't know at the time that's what I was preparing for. There were also times, I shared this with you, Miss Iroye, what I was also doing with fashion, every holiday that I came home, I would, because my sister was also in fashion and she was working with my dad, so I sort of had like a base. Do you understand? I had a base. We had a factory that I just needed to add to. So it wasn't me starting from the scratch, right? And I'm sharing this so people know and they don't just see and they're like, oh, she had it easy. How did she do it? No, there was, I had support. My dad, from nowhere. No, I had support. My sister was already, 5 years or 4 years into fashion business, right? And so she and my dad gave me soft landing. She also really helped me, my sister Ore, in setting up my business, putting in processes to just, I was able to learn from the mistakes that she had made because she told me, oh, this is what I did when I started. Oh, don't do it this way. So that was very, very helpful for me to be able to, set up those systems and to experience growth, rapid growth, So apart from the fact that I think I got some supernatural speed, I also had natural and physical people support system that was there, that people that were there helping me, right? And when I also wanted to start, for years, since 2018, since I went to fashion school, I was buying fabrics. So when I got, for example, when we got leave bonus, money that I would have used for frivolous things, otherwise, I would just take a chunk of it, go to the fabric market, shop for certain fabrics, and just keep it, because we did have a factory and a store already. So I'll just buy, oh, this looks nice, this can work, I will buy and keep, from 2018. So I started to do this 2018, 2019, even my stuff, like all these things that I just buying. It was a way for me to, it was an investment into my business that was going to happen, right? And also, I didn't also realize, but I was creating a softer landing for myself. So I was no longer going to be looking for capital to buy fabrics, for example. I already had yards and yards and yards of fabrics that I had been buying for months and years building up to that time. So when I did leave my job, what I had to do was get machines, getting tailors and staff that were going to work with me. I also took a course in fashion illustration because I wanted to be able to do what I was doing very well and to be good at it. So I needed all the knowledge that I needed, that I could get. I needed to get all the knowledge that I could get to be a great fashion designer. So I took that course, and then, you just put money here and there, and little by little, it was making sense, and with the help of God, because I don't know, people always talk about the role that God has played in their lives and in their businesses. It is very important. It is very, very important. And I'm not just saying it, I'm not paying lip service to, oh, God did this for me, God has been so faithful. But all these things that I'm listing, there's some people who follow those processes, but they still may not have achieved what I've been able to achieve. So I give all glory and honor to God. And I thank him for leading me, for directing me, and just basically telling me the way to go. Because there are certain mistakes or missteps that I could have taken that would have been costly to me that I didn't take because, I got
someone.
You understand it? Yes, that, oh no, this is not what you should do now. Even when it seemed to the natural eye that was the way to go, it just wasn't the way to go. So I wanted to share a little about that background as to how I got it, to how I pivoted and how I eased into it. I had a support system around me. Yes, it's really important. You can't isolate yourself because it's a very big move. It's significant for someone like me who's had 10 years of steady income to now being the one who would be creating or to now rely on the things that I considered my side income, right? Because my voiceover was my side income at the time. So it's a big move. It's something that you should definitely do. I will never discourage people. I will always encourage people to do this, but make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, right? I will always encourage people to do it, but once you're doing it, don't go alone. Go with God. Also go with your support system that he has put here for you on the earth. Your friends and family, they're there to support you and to help you, to guide you. So seek people out, seek knowledge. You don't know it all. Yes, you're getting guidance from God, but seek out people as well, to just get more insights into what you want to do.
All right, thank you very much. What inspired or informed the course you studied in the university?
The Nigerian situation, really. And I think my combination in school and my scores, that was the inspiration, really. I don't think there was any inspiration behind my course. I studied human kinetics at the University of Lagos, which is the university name for physical education. So I'm a trained physical education teacher. So there was really no inspiration behind that. I had initially registered to study Can you guess, Mr. Ray? What the average person who?
Medicine.
Exactly. Medicine and surgery.
Okay.
So I'm the first daughter, right? And my parents, they would always look at the older children and use them to set an example for the others. So I think they decided that it was going to be medicine for me because of some of the traits that they thought that they had seen in me. And they're like, oh my medicine, this person is going to do medicine. Okay. And so, I went along with it. I also thought that that's what I wanted to do. When you hear something over and over again, you just sort of personalize it. You're like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. It would take serious introspection for you to realize that this is not actually my own goal. This is just something that, I have been conditioned to think that I want for myself. So, but let's not go into that. So I did put in for medicine and surgery. I was a science student in school as well. And it was time for registration during JAM. I passed my JAM, I passed my post-UME, and they decided I didn't have the right subject combination for it. For medicine and surgery. So I only had 2 options left. I couldn't go into sciences as well because I didn't have further maths, or I didn't have there was one particular subject I didn't have in WAEC. So the only option I had left was education. Okay. And, those were the 2 options that were given to me, human kinetics and home economics. And I'll be honest, my dad did say to me not to do it. Because he just felt, okay, you know what, you can take this year to develop other areas and other aspects of your life and do JAMB again. Because at the time, we couldn't afford to pay for diploma. It was JAMB, pass your JAMB or sit down at home, And so, but I decided I was going to go with human kinetics. There's actually a funny story, Ms. Iroye. I don't know if you'd like me to share that. There's a funny story with the selection of this course. So I'd gone to Senate to let them know what my decision was out of the 2 courses that were available for me to study. And I went with human kinetics, right? Because it sounded like science. I did a little research. I was like, oh, yeah, kinetics, motion, movement, physics. Human kinetics. I had an idea, but I didn't totally understand what it was at the time, to be honest.
Purely PE. You didn't know.
I knew that there was some parts of physical. I just thought it was more like anatomy and physiology. Okay. Just basically studying how the body works and how the body moves for some reason. So I then told them, look, I'm going to go with human kinetics. That's what I'm picking, final answer. Mm-hmm. And I came down from Senate. I was leaving, right? I was leaving the Senate building to go home. I met one of my friends then from my secondary school. We went to Queen's College together. So I met her. I won't mention her name. I met 2 of my friends, Mr. Iroye, 2 of my ex-classmates at Queen's College that day. It's when I look back, I was like, these people could have been there for a reason, So I met one of them and she was just like, Elizabeth, because they call me Elizabeth in secondary school. Elizabeth, how are you? She was doing diploma. Okay. A point to note, I waited a year before I got into school. The first year I didn't pass my JAM, so it was the second year that I passed my JAM. Okay. So one of them had gotten into Unilag. She passed her JAM and was doing engineering at the time. And then the other one was writing diplomas. So she wasn't really in school yet, but she was already in the process of getting into school. She was just completing her diploma. So by the time she would get into 200 level, I'll be getting into 100 level. So I met one of them, the one doing diploma. And I told her everything, what was going on. And I was like, this is what's going on. Oh, this is what they gave me. You know how, when you fail, not fail per se, you always say it's what they gave me, not what I got. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, these are the courses that they gave me, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? I'm going to pick this one anyway. I picked human kinetics. What do you think about it? And she's like, human kinetics, jumpology. That was my first time. Sorry, that was my first time hearing that term that I would now grow to like hate or love, because that was my first time hearing it. She was like, jumpology, what? Elizabeth, you can't do it. You cannot do it. Go now. Go back there. Go back upstairs now and go and tell them to change it for you. What's the other option? And that's what the other option was, home economics. In my head, I was just like, actually, I didn't really understand. I was like, so I'll come to university to do home economics. I didn't also know what human kinetics entailed at the time.
Okay.
I was just like, okay, no problem. I'll just get into school. A part of me also thought that I was going to do JAMB again. That I was just going to be there for 1 year, right? And then so that I'm not sitting at home. So I was going to do that course for 1 year and then write JAMB again and probably get into study medicine or medicine, which was a course that was chosen for me from home. So I then said, okay, no problem. I'm going to go and do that. I'll go and change it. I'll go and tell the woman in Senate that I'm not doing human kinetics again. Okay, so I turned back. I said my goodbyes to her, and I actually was going back to Senate to go and change human kinetics. So on my way to the Senate building, right? For people who are familiar with the way Unilag is, there's one area where engineering students would like the MPH around the multipurpose hall area. So I met another of my friends who I hadn't seen since we left secondary school. Mind you, I had the other lady who told me to go and change. I had seen her. We were friends. But the other person, I hadn't seen her. That was my first time seeing her outside of secondary school. So we hugged, we said, oh, hi, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. What's going on? What course are you studying? Are you here? You know, the usual pleasantries. And she then told me, that she was doing engineering. She was there in her first year. And I said, oh, really great. I mean, I have no surprises here. This was first. She was really smart. She used to help me with physics when we were in secondary school. In fact, and then we would help her with English, right? Because she, for some reason, she would always get like a C. She would struggle to get a C in English that the others, we were like acing. Physics that we're struggling with, and chemistry and math. She would say, but this thing is easy now. So we had that type of relationship. She would help me with physics, and then, you know, I would help with English. And I told her what was going on. I told her what my other friend had said, and that, oh, this is what I'm going to go and do. She was like, what are you doing? It doesn't matter. Just go and don't go and change it. You know, you're already getting in. This is an opportunity for you to get into school. This person who is telling you this is not even sure whether she's going to get admission after her diploma. So yeah, don't worry, just go and do it. Sometimes it really doesn't matter. It's what you make out of it. Just make sure that you finish well. We were peers, we were age mates, but she had so much wisdom in her. And I feel that God probably spoke through her, you know, to me on that day. And she just said, okay, no, don't worry, don't go and pick. I don't think home economics is a better option for what you're picked. So just go and do this one. And even if you want to do JAMB again, it is fine. Do your 1 year and do your JAMB again, but just do this one. Don't go, and you know how Unilag can be. So I was like, okay, are you sure? And I found myself, I think I'm pretty, I'm not impressionable, I don't know the word, but the both of them in that moment were able to influence my decision. You know, not even my parents, because my dad at the time was just like, no, it's medicine or nothing. And you pick either of these ones. When you finish, you're going to go and do JAMB again. So he really didn't mind anyone that I picked, because he knew that wasn't my final destination. I don't know if you get what I mean. So they left the decision sort of like to me. So my friend then discouraged me from, you know, going upstairs to go change it. And I was just like, okay, no problem. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. You know, I hugged her. We said our goodbyes. And if I'm being honest, I'm not sure that I saw her again. I'm not sure that our paths crossed again in Unilag, in all my 4 years in Unilag. So I think it was a coincidence that I saw her. I don't know. But anyway, that's how that story went. And so I found myself studying human kinetics. And in the first semester, the first year, a part of me would just ask, what am I actually doing here? What's going on? But as time grew on, I realized that sometimes it's not really about what you really study. It's what you're carrying. Why are you there? And I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I've always sort of been in education, right? So I wasn't averse to doing education. But while human kinetics was a bit difficult for me because I hadn't played any sports in my life up until the time that I went to. Oh no, I had never played any sports. I'd never played any sports apart from, children playing in the compound, maybe just something. I'd never played any sports at all.
Interesting.
So it was a bit challenging, but along the line, I decided that this was what I was going to do and I was going to finish well. For me, it now became more about what I could do with what I had. So I then realized that sometimes it's really not about what you study, but it's about what you make of it, right? And sometimes a university education, while it equips us for, the career that we want to get into, sometimes you find people who become largely successful, but it didn't really have any direct, it doesn't have any direct correlation with what they had studied in university. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do.
So I was coming to that realization. And I think I also have to thank, I have our lecturers to thank for that, because they realized that a lot of us weren't happy to be there in human kinetics. So most of the work that they did was more of psychology, building up our confidence, reminding us that we weren't second-class citizens as people in education. Because I think that that's one of the challenges in Nigeria, maybe even the wider society, where they don't recognize certain careers or certain jobs or certain courses as important enough. So I believe that our lecturers realized that, and they just, needed to get us to the point where we were open-minded and we were ready to study. Because half of the people in my class at the time were talking about how they were going to leave and how they were going to transfer and how they were going to do JAMB again. So after my first semester, of course, my dad still, he was encouraging me to study, but he also wanted me to prepare to leave it, to do something else. The typical Nigerian parents at the time that I was going to school, and I think even way before that, they considered certain professions as the holy grail, or those are the things that their children needed to do. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or an accountant. Anything else is something out of the ordinary. So it was more like the late 2000s that different careers now started to come up, and they realized that, wow, there is more to life than being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and accountant. So by the first semester or the second semester, I decided that I was going to complete my 4 years in human kinetics, and I wasn't going to leave until I finished it. Okay. So I told my dad this decision. Actually, I told him in the first semester. Let me tell you another story. I remember the first time they gave us the list of items to buy. When you go to school, they'll give you all your books. You need to buy these textbooks, these handouts, these course materials. These are the things that you need. And then I took a list to my dad. It was in the second semester, not the first semester. The first semester, we had a lot of borrowed courses from sciences. So it looked like I was still on the right path. Oh, I told my dad, I needed to get something for physics 101, for GST, this and that, for math, this. So he still felt like, oh yes, my daughter is in line. But by the second semester, we had stopped doing some of these courses. We had left some of those word courses behind, and we're doing more departmental courses. So what that meant was we were doing introduction to sports. In fact, in my first year, in the first semester, we did about 7. Introduction to soccer, introduction to basketball, introduction to volleyball, tennis basics, all of those things. And with it, as we went to buy basketball, football, rackets, tennis balls, and then I was like, it started to dawn on me, like, what's going on? And so they gave us the list. I was okay with it because I had already decided. I purported in my mind that this was what I was going to do. So I went home with the list of items that we needed. Gym mat, skipping rope, exercise ball, football. I'm sure you can already imagine what it is, a Nigerian parent.
Yes.
So I went to my parents' room and I gave it to my dad. This is what they told us to buy. I need money. Give me money for these items. I will never forget. I can never forget this scenario. My dad was the calmest that I had seen him in such a long time. He sat down. He was just looking at the paper that I had given him. He was like, what do you need these for? I said, that's the cost now. Don't worry. Just give me the money that I need to buy the balls and the rackets and everything that I need right now. Don't worry. And that was it. So I started my journey in human kinetics. And I think that decision that I made early on helped me in getting the best grades that I could possibly get. I was second in my class. I finished almost top of the class.
Wow.
And